All right, welcome guys. Today you got me, Nick Augustine with Grace Technologies business development team, and Ben Herman joining me from the team as well. So you want to give yourself a quick introduction?
Yeah, like Nick said, I'm part of the business development team. Started with Grace probably 6, 7 months ago, and we're excited just to bring a couple case studies with our predictive maintenance line to you guys today and give you guys some real world results and what some of our users are saying and experiencing with our GraceSense system.
Yeah, so if you've joined us for the past month or so, we've been going over some new updates to our predictive maintenance system. Today, we wanted to share some success stories because we've been getting a lot of interest and answering a lot of the same questions over and over again. So we thought it'd be a good time to share that information with you and share a couple success stories so you can see how others are taking our GraceSense predictive maintenance and finding success with it. So the two we're going to discuss today, we'll go into a little background before it, but we're going to get into a non-wovens manufacturer and then an automotive case study. So we'll have a couple examples of how our system was used, a couple downtime incidents that they were able to identify and prevent, and then what that looks like and how we can translate that over into various facilities for you guys. So
yeah, we're gonna kind of focus in the beginning a bit of why they started looking into GraceSense and what they're experiencing at their plants and some of the problems, and then kind of walk through how the GraceSense system helps solve those issues and help them be kind of a more productive and predictive facility.
Yeah, so the importance of predictive maintenance, what we're aiming to do is allow maintenance teams to schedule out their responses instead of react so much, because that's going to drive the productivity, the efficiency of your manufacturing plant. Because none of these places can survive without a maintenance team, and they get busy, and none of them are overstaffed. From all the ones that we talk to, there's a lot of people struggling to find and retain quality maintenance employees, whether on the electrical side or the mechanical side. So what GraceSense allows to happen is to automate some of those tasks and make your maintenance team more efficient and respond in a lot more coordinated way. And then there's a few paybacks off of that as far as not having to order stuff overnight to repair any unexpected downtime or a few things like that. So we'll break into that, but you want to give a little background on what you're bringing to this and the experience you've had with some of these customers?
Yeah, definitely. So over the last 7 months or so, I've been talking to quite a few different end users within either automotive, unwoven, steel, and other facilities about what they're looking to measure in the sense of like either vibration, temperature, it could be flow, current, etc. So just kind of bringing in some maybe a few other points of view, different types of end users to this conversation, and just kind of what I'm hearing from what they're experiencing, kind of what other end users are looking for in a predictive maintenance system, and kind of going into depth about why they're looking to decrease their unplanned downtime. Obviously, there's some good reasons for that. Unfortunately, you can't totally decrease complete downtime, but we're trying to help you make that planned instead of unplanned and make that a little bit more predictive instead of reactive. And then kind of talking about some of the safety concerns with reactive maintenance and that unplanned downtime.
All right, and we will send this out. We'll do an on-demand version of this webinar. Nick Schultz will email it out after we're done, and we'll include these case studies that we're going to go over. We picked these two specifically. One, automotive is always a good example of good return on downtime incidents. It's always one of the higher threshold downtime costs, just because in the automotive industry, that conveyor never stops. You're manufacturing, and if you're unplanned down, then you're siphoning money fast. And then the non-wovens one, but both of these managed to use GraceSense, and then they used it in a little bit different way to kind of expand their capabilities. And that's why we wanted to highlight these two, because the standard vibration temperature, but then it was tweaked a little bit to be a little more valuable to these two situations. So the non-woven one I think is interesting. So you want to kind of give a background on that one?
So this non-woven manufacturer, they came to us because they're experiencing some thermal events that caused unplanned downtime for upwards or as long as a couple months. So obviously this became unbelievably expensive for them, and they needed to figure out something to help decrease this unplanned downtime and stop these thermal events from happening. So what they were interested in was measuring temperature over time, because their fibers, they would kind of create friction and increase in heat, and that would end up creating thermal events, which would cause some extreme unplanned downtime for them, again, upwards of a couple months. So again, they were looking into measuring temperature over time. They weren't as interested in vibration. So the temperature was the main reading for them.
And they knew it was happening. They were aware of it and they could catch it. But the problem was they wanted to catch it earlier so it would limit the damage, because especially if a thermal event or something starts on fire inside of one of your machines and it spreads before you can really take control of it, even your response to that is going to damage some stuff. Just like the recycling center with a vision system and a foam cannon, you're just going to, the response to putting out that thermal event, if you can catch it earlier, is going to save a significant amount. So that's kind of what they were looking to do. They knew what they needed to catch, when they needed to catch it, and how. It's just with their own human senses, they couldn't always get there on time.
Yeah, I think Nick's making a couple of really good points here. Typically within predictive maintenance, it's not catching anything you haven't seen, right? You're trying to catch things that you know is going to happen at some point, but you're trying to catch it before it happens. So you have planned downtime to fix that problem before it gets out of hand or causes a lot more downtime than it should, or hopefully you would like it to cause. But with this non-woven, what was interesting with the fibers is that with this, when thermal events would happen, one is if you put it out or try to handle that situation either with water or whatever, you're causing a lot more material damage than the thermal event. So even just stopping it, you're maybe destroying quite a bit of product. Granted, you're probably keeping other machinery or assets, alive, which is good and healthy. But unfortunately, it does, like Nick was saying, it's costing quite a bit of money even to stopping that thermal event.
Yeah, and then there's your normal maintenance tasks that you're going about. So when something unexpected comes up, then it's just pushing everything else back a little bit. And that's, again, a key spot where this automation comes in, so that you can keep your workflow moving forward, even if you're not able to stand there. I mean, we've seen automation work in very valuable ways in a lot of industries, and we're bringing that to the maintenance industry, the industrial setting, to have the same effect. So ideally, it'll free your time up. It'll allow you to make the decisions that are more valuable and schedule out your tasks. So, and that's what they were able to do within the first year or so. What were they able to find with the GraceSense system?
So once they implemented the GraceSense and measuring temperature over time, they actually were able to prevent 6 thermal event scenarios within the first year from happening.
And the thermal events were anywhere from a couple of days to a few months. And they caught 6 of them in a year.
So obviously there's a variety of ROI within that, and depending if that thermal event would have caused a few day downtime or upwards of a couple month, obviously the ROI is pretty massive there. And I think this goes to show, as soon as you do get into the predictive maintenance and IoT line, all it takes is one event to stop, and you're just like, holy cow, this relieves so much stress for me, and it turns something from constantly a worry in the front of my mind to something I can put in the back of my mind to not have to worry, because I know I'm just going to get either a text or an email or however you need a signal to you that a potential event is occurring.
Yeah, and you'll catch it in time. And that's the biggest thing, is that, again, a lot of people that we talk to are able to catch these events a lot of time before they're disastrous, but not often enough before to really have a good impact on it. So that's what they'll do, is say, hey, if I stand here all day, I can tell you exactly when I need to fix this and why, but I can't stand here all day. So that's all. We just need to make sure that we're providing usable information with our system that gets into theirs. So, and we are able to do that, and we'll go into a little more detail later. But are there any other highlights out of this that you wanted to share? Because I know they were quite pleased with the installation of the GraceSense, right?
Yes, I think that's something, a big thing to note here is, I think many have an inclination that IoT can be quite the process to install and get into.
Well, it can be.
It's for this non-woven, actually, that was one of the easiest things for them to implement. Since our nodes are wireless nodes, all you have to do, whether you're putting on a motor or a stamp or whatever it may be, a pump, is it can just be wirelessly installed with a magnet. And that magnet's pretty strong. Now you don't have to be like the Hulk or anything to take that off, but it's only going to measure what you're looking to measure. But that's the nice thing, as one, it's wireless, it connects to the gateway. So all you have to really worry about here is making sure it has a line of sight to that gateway instead of hardwiring and trying to plan out wiring all throughout a plant and weaving in and out of beams or whatever it may be, and avoiding trip hazards, etc. So it's the installation process is quite quickly and easy.
Yeah, and we get that a lot. A lot of people are often surprised with the ease of integration of the GraceSense. Well, my favorite way to show that to people is to just get it on site and let you experience it yourself, because we're able to give you the equipment. You can have a node up and running within an hour. There's a lot of back end work that we do here to make sure that it's very deployable once it reaches the customer, and that it takes a lot of that hesitation out of it, because a lot of these systems, a lot of the IoT that's taken off in the past couple of years, you've seen the industry just boom.
Yep.
A lot of it takes a lot of back end engineering work. So one, these are very expensive solutions sometimes, and you spend $20,000 getting equipment in, you get it all there, and you realize it's going to take 50, 60,000 more of engineering time and paying system integrators and getting APIs built and making sure your information gets where you want it to go in a usable way.
Yep.
And we provide that. We've done really well to ensure that that's already in place with our system, and that's what we're trying to get out in front of people. So if you're interested in getting something in front of you so you can set up some nodes, see what information you can gather, the starter kits can be moved around. We've had people do that, but just to see where you can gain value with it and at what level. And then we've had some people take it and expand upon it, because we're not restricted with GraceSense. You're not closed off to only our components.
Yep.
So the automotive case study that we have up here is interesting in that, because they added a current sensor, which is a very common addition and usually one of the first pointed out things, especially with like VFDs. If you walk in a place and they go, if you can tell me the minute this VFD changes the current output, it's working harder, I can go and I can fix that problem. I'll go figure it out. But I just need to know that. And that gets added into our system a lot, because that's a very valuable detail. Yep. And then that can be sent out either text message, email, and they're able to start resolving that problem a lot faster.
Yeah, what was unique about the automotive case study here is that the cranes were very valuable in their production, because they'd have trucks come in with coils, with steel coils, and this crane was responsible for picking these up and putting it to the steel area in this plant for production. So if the crane went down at all of production would go down. And in the past, they've had times where employees and users would be overloading the crane, which obviously, like, cranes have like a set max, but they're like, oh, you're probably good to go this amount over. And, unfortunately, sometimes it's a little too much, but that's kind of what would happen. And so they were interested in measuring current to see how much harder the crane is either working to catch anything going down before it actually happens. And so what they did is what Nick was saying, they took a third-party node to measure current and hooked it up to our GraceSense system. And again, our Grace nodes measure vibration and temperature over time, but we are capable of taking other third-party nodes that measure current, maybe flow, whatever it may be that's out there, and bringing it into one comprehensive system. So that's a super important thing, is you don't want data all over the place, because data all over the place is not useful, because you're not probably going to be able to find it. You don't know where it's at. You're probably going to have to ask a handful of people at the very least. I just actually had a conversation with somebody a week ago that was having that problem of they had to go walk down like 10 doors at their plant to ask somebody about where their vibration data is, and they want it just in front of their hands on their laptop to be able to see, which we provide via our cloud offering and our maintenance hub. So you can take that, either the current data, the vibration data, temperature data, and bring it all into one viewable area so you can see the total health of your equipment or your assets that you're looking to measure.
So, and that is one of the biggest pushbacks we get and the hesitation you see is making sure that the information that we provide is usable and provides value to your maintenance team, because we're not necessarily working with people that have vibration experts on staff. So a lot of people contract us out and they have a third-party company come in and do their vibration testing, which that expense adds up. And then you're still only getting that once in a while check-in on the health, and you're not getting the trending and the actual data that is so valuable. And everyone in this industry knows that the more data you can have to make a decision, the better decision you're going to make. The reason you want all that in one place is so that everybody has access to true, up-to-date, real data, because that's the people in your company making decisions and driving your company forward. And if they're not able to access that true data pool and make innovative decisions, then you're really going to start lagging behind. And those of you that kept up with GraceSense and all these new innovations coming out, we're living in the AI world now. And there was recently a debate, if any of you are fans of the Monk debates, but they had a debate, including Meta's chief AI scientist, about whether or not the research and development into AI should be halted because it poses an existential threat to humanity. And one of the main topics they talked about was the race to the bottom, and the companies that adopt this AI, this predictive maintenance, the new technology that move into the IIoT, Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0, however you can push forward, the ones that don't are going to start falling behind. And we've seen that with manufacturing in this country already. There's a lot of IIoT companies that are trying to bring that back and trying to put a big focus on making sure that your operations are set up to receive this data, to make those good decisions, and to provide actionable results to propel you into the future successfully. So that's what we're doing, is providing information in a way that is digestible, usable, without an expert on your staff to interpret it. So we've built that up in our maintenance hub. We're able to present data, spin it around, let you see it at a few different angles, and determine what exactly that issue is going to be and how to resolve it.
Two things that Nick's saying here that's super important is, I think we all recognize that competition in the workplace and industry is going up. It's skyrocketing. It's never been easier to start a business, right? And you have access to the whole world now with either social media, with AI, all these new technologies. So any competitive advantage that you can do and keep your uptime as high as possible is going to be extremely important to being able to produce as much product as humanly possible for your company to sell and keep increasing its revenue year in, year out, because obviously that's the goal. But another note is that you don't have to be a vibration expert to understand what this data is in front of you. What Nick was saying is it's super important, because our engineers on staff, they've spent, I can't even tell you how many hours, days, weeks, months going into this data and having averages on what is important for you to know. And we have pre-selected vibration levels for whether it's a motor, a pump, whatever it may be, that if it goes beyond that, then you're going to get notified immediately. And if you maybe notice something a little bit different, you're able to change that at your fingertips on your computer. If you're connected to our maintenance hub, you can make an easy change to, hey, I want to be notified a little sooner. That takes a few minutes to do. So it's super easy and manageable to be able to make changes and measure the health of your equipment. And you get notified however you want, whether you respond to text the best, whether it's email, even if it's maybe a asset that you're looking to measure that's not as critical to your production time, and you want it to be a task in your CMS, we can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're already using a software to issue out maintenance tickets and to schedule things in your department, we can integrate into that. That's the idea. You don't want information in 17 disparate systems and have it hard to obtain. You don't have to go 10 doors down to find out, just to delay making every decision that adds up.
And I think something to also note with this is both the non-woven and automotive customers here and users here, they both stated how easy it is to work with Grace. And we've been in business since the early 90s, and we've customized like well over 15,000, 20,000 Grace ports when our original product. And that part of us and our DNA has not changed, of being easy to work with, figuring out what you need, and we will provide that for you. So we are open to communication and figuring out to get the data and filling your needs, whatever that is, into our GraceSense system.
Yeah, a good point of that, because there is a lot of new startups offering a lot of exciting sounding opportunities, and it's hard to sort through all of them. But that is one thing that makes Grace stand out, really, is that we've been in this industry, we've been a Rockwell partner, we've been saving lives in maintenance departments for 30 years now, over 30 years now. So that relationship and that dedication behind Grace is really what's going to drive this forward. This isn't just a one-off product line. This is enough of a business for us that we changed our name from Grace Engineered Products to Grace Technologies, and we are fully staffing and supporting this GraceSense system. So the interest in it has been overwhelmingly great. It's very fun to have these conversations. We've expanded our staff. We've hired a national IIoT sales manager just to help support that side of the business. Our business development team, Ben's new, we've expanded 400% in the past year. So this isn't going anywhere. We are an established and very well partnered company within the industry, and we're using that to really have the biggest impact we can and provide the most common sense approach to how to gather this data and use it, because that's really what the problem is when you get 17 systems and they don't work together, and then everyone just, it ends up sitting there for 2 years and not being used.
I think the automotive is a good example to showcase that too, because we're measuring current on the crane, we're measuring vibration on their conveyor system to make sure that's still up and running. So focusing on vibration there, and again, current on the crane, as well as we were measuring their stamping process for temperature. So we had temperature over time, vibration over time, and current over time. So you could see 3 different aspects or 3 different things you're looking to measure all in one area to see. So like Nick is saying, like, you're not having 17 different data points all over the place and on maybe this computer, this software, or in this SCADA system, whatever it is. You can all have that in one location to view that and have it actionable to see, hey, this is what we maybe need to do. And a big thing that both customers ended up sharing with us is that they wanted to do maintenance, better, smarter, and more efficient. But unfortunately, like Nick was saying earlier, nobody's overstaffed maintenance-wise. So as soon as a problem happened that day, they would have to go, take care of that. And unfortunately, wouldn't be able to do either their temperature monitoring or vibration monitoring on whatever asset. And that would get pushed back in a day, but something would happen later that day or the next day. So it got pushed back another week or a month. And, at one point you're good, nothing's happening. But when that event does happen, then you do really wish you were measuring that vibration and temperature or whatever it is more frequently. But this allows you to do so. It allows you to measure something 24/7, 365 days a year, and put that in the back of your mind and get notified when it becomes a priority.
Yeah, so I worked in a couple steel mills, and the experience I've had, because the crane application's always a funny one. The crane operators are great guys, but what happens is that so say your maintenance team goes around and they routinely monitor the vibration on all this equipment. But like you say, you got your crane, and the crane operator likes to overload that, get work done a little bit faster, make everyone a little bit happier. It's never been told off for doing that, doesn't realize the wear and tear it's having and the degradation of the equipment that it's experiencing. So it becomes routine. And then when that breaks down, that's not part of their routine. So they're taking time out of their day to react yet again, go over and fix this crane, which is not a quick process. A lot of early adapters of our PESDs were in applications like that, where it's cranes or places you have to access that are not frequently traveled, so to make it quicker and easier and safer while you're doing that. But then while you're responding to that, you're taking time out of your day for your routine checks, your site audits, and it only takes a couple months of, everyone's had a bad couple months, things line up, and then stuff doesn't get checked, goes beyond, you lose a guy, someone goes on vacation, and then before you know it, stuff goes down that you were checking, just busy, haven't had time to check. And if it's made affordable, it's real common sense addition.
Yep.
So what we're offering is for like $3,000 to $5,000, we can give a starter kit. We get you 5 or 6 sensors, a couple different frequencies, so you can play around and see what you can really gather out of the equipment, and you can move it around. But for $3,000 to $5,000, you can find out what information you can automate, gather, and trend, and really extend not only the life, but the performance of your equipment, the resale value to have that information and know that it was maintained, just like a Carfax report. You have the history, you have everything that went into it, and then you have the technology on our side. So if you're using the maintenance hub and we're analyzing and providing that banded Fourier analysis to really dive in and assure that you found the root cause of the problem that you're investigating, and then to document that and have actionable results for next time. And that way, your information doesn't leave the building when your experienced maintenance guys leave the building.
Yep. And I think that's a super important note too, because to truly keep expanding as a business, you need to be able to have it where your systems can be, someone can just jump in and take over, and to be able to understand what's going on and be able to keep producing whatever the product is and keep production up high, right? And that's what our system allows you to do, is you can just look at that data over the last year, 5 years, 10 years, however long you've been implementing IoT, and that maybe new person after Bob retires or whoever, and they're trying to learn all of the equipment and the assets that you have in your plant, they can view it right away and start to see and have an understanding of the previous history and trends that your assets have gone through, and maybe what indications they need to look for, et cetera. So it makes it very easy for someone to step in and understand how to maintain this equipment and keep it at a high productive time.
Absolutely. So we are going to open this up to any questions, because we do want to answer any unassurances that you guys have in the deployment and use of GraceSense. So beyond, I'm going to go through a couple updates that we're doing and still talk out a couple points, but I wanted to give you guys a chance to put in your questions and give us a chance to read those. But with the, I lost track of my thought process there.
So I would say,
I was going to go, with the GraceSense, the continuous updates on that, a couple things that have happened recently. But one of them is just the battery power. So not all of our vibration sensors have to be battery powered. You have the option to hardwire them in if you want to really increase the rate of data that you're gathering. But with the battery powered ones, we had a recent update where that's going to last longer now because it wakes up faster. So the way that our sensors work is it's not a continuously on type of sensor, because that would just drain the battery life in no time. But what it does is it'll wake up at intervals that you set, whether it be a couple minutes, couple hours, couple days. But it'll wake up, it'll sense that vibration, it'll put it into a banded Fourier, it analyzes it and does all the work in the node. It's an edge processing device. And then it'll send that processed data into either your system, through your PLC, through our cloud gate, into the maintenance hub, however you want to orient that information, and provide that to you. So at those intervals, you'll get data collected, it'll trend, and now that it wakes up faster, we can extend that battery life from 3 to 5 years, even longer. And then some of the fun updates, if you guys are really paying attention, we have some potential to remove the batteries forever and perpetually power these sensors. Things we're working on like that, the AI integration, those are all projects in the pipeline here, which make it really exciting and really show that we're putting some effort into this product line to really make it something that stands out from the crowd. And then what's the next one? I think this fall we should have defect classification.
Yep.
And that is going to be extremely helpful in the interpretation of this data, because what that's going to do is, instead of relying on anyone to know that vibration at 2 times the shaft speed is going to be an imbalance and 8 times the shaft speed is going to be a bearing wearing down, it's going to be able to tell you that and then give you recommended actions and allow you to go in and edit that so that you can send out pictures, work orders, responses, however you need to orient that response, and you can customize that through your system to get the correct response to it. So
Yep.
it's very unique and it's very fun to work with. As far as like, you can tell if you have a chip blade on your air handling system, the rate that a bearing's running down, and whether it needs grease, whether it's, but the longer something degrades, the faster it does. You get that PF curve, and the earlier we can identify stuff on that curve is all that people want. Nobody wants anything beyond tell me there's a problem as early on that PF curve as I can, and give me time to decide how important that problem is and coordinate a response to it.
Yeah, and again, I think something to note here is the easiest way to get started with this is, Nick did mention a starter kit, but we do have local reps, around the country, and probably one pretty close to you. And we can work on scheduling a lunch and learn to do a demo kit where you can get your hands on, a node or two and get that set up over lunch and have that up and running in a day or two.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want a set of this on site to play with, then let us know. Ben and I will be reaching out. Alyssa, Chris, you might hear from them as well. But we've had a lot of interest in this. The best way has been getting on site and just playing through it, understanding that it's not over the top, it's not impossible to understand, and there's not 37 hours of engineering that it's going to take to deploy the system. And then with that starter kit, that maintenance hub, it isn't a free product. So depending on how extensive you get, there is a little bit of a continued cost for those channels to send that information back and forth if you're using that cloud gate. But that still allows us over-the-air updates, so we can make the equipment that's installed at your site better without walking on site. We just push that out, and the battery enhancements, everything that we can do is able to be done remotely. So things like that are what's making our engineering staff is doing fantastic at pushing this product forward and making it really one of the most usable things on the market.
Yeah, and a big thing is to, like Nick was saying, we're more than happy to reach out to you and answer any questions that you guys have. So a thing we understand is that return on investment is going to change depending on what plant, even if it's one company, depending on what the products you're making. For example, for automotive, if it's a higher end car plant, that one's going to be production's a bit higher and more important revenue wise than one of their lower end car plants, et cetera. So we want to talk to you guys, learn about your application, ask what you're looking to measure, and figure out the best way possible to how to incorporate and integrate that into your existing systems and make it as simple as possible. So we're more than happy to jump on a quick meeting with you, have a phone call to answer any questions you might have and get IoT into your hands as soon as possible.
Yeah, the whole ROI discussion is always a fun one. And it does depend. It depends on what your material is. If you can halt the process, if you're making glass, not going to halt that process, and you're going to waste any material that is in the process when you go down. So those industries are going to have a bit of a higher cost to their downtime, depending on the cost of the staff and everything to react to that and how many people it takes. So, but the idea is that this is a strategy, and you have to be proactive and really use the most efficient use of your resources available. And that's what we're trying to allow people to do. Because everyone we talk to is short on maintenance staff. They need to do more with less. And this is just taking some easy tasks off their hands and allowing their time to be better spent. So the integration of that, the ease of interpreting the information are highlights, big focuses for us. And it's been if you've watched the PESDs, our electrical safety devices evolve, that's all the feedback for that was, hey, we love these products, make them easier for us to use, easier to install, lower cost. And we've done that with every iteration. We've gotten easier and easier to be used by our customer base, because that's our focus. We're customer obsessed, and that's really how we identify our success, is by providing you a solution that you're happy with. So
yeah, I think that's a good point. Is we view ourselves as Grace as your partner, as partially your technology partner within GraceSense, your electrical safety partner, and helping you identify what is going to be best for your facility and help you keep a high uptime and keep things safe as possible for your workers.
All right, we have a poll that we want to ask. What is our poll? Nick's gonna pop something up on screen here so you guys can all send us some information.
Yeah, so if you guys are interested in the starter kit that they mentioned earlier, go ahead and submit yes to this, and we'll follow up with you guys with some more information.
So that's
time. You can also drop some questions in the chat, and we will go through those through the remainder of the webinar.
So that request, thank you, Nick, is it'll get us to contact you, reach out, and provide more information. It's not necessarily going to get us on site. If you're interested in that, let us know during that conversation. But feel free to request more information if all you're looking is to overview your situation, see where we might be able to help, what applications we've had that are similar in the past, and what our thought process is. So there's a few things that have come up where people have wanted to add like ultrasonic sensors so that you can find the vibration by sound a little bit before you can by vibration. So, or find the degradation and the failure. And if you have equipment like that, that's the beauty of our system. And one of the reasons I came to Grace Technologies to support this was the interoperability between components and people's systems. We didn't try to tier this in a way where you were restricted to, if you want to add a component, pay us for it, and pay us to engineer this, pay us to do this. It was more, how can we make this the best for everybody?
Yep.
And before I got here, I thought we were well on that path, or Grace was well on that path. And since the year I've been here, we are so well on that path. It's great to have that focus. So if there is any interest, let us know. We're more than happy to connect with you guys and talk through some of these.
Yeah, and again, just kind of what to expect for that conversation is the BD team will just be asking to learn a little bit more about your plant, your application. What are you looking to measure, whether that's vibration, temperature, current, flow, whatever it may be, and we can talk a little bit further on how that can integrate into our system and maybe the best ways to get set up with the GraceSense system at your plant, because we do realize each plant is unique and you guys are looking to measure different things, and what's ultimately going to be is most value to you is going to be uniquely to your plant. So we're happy to kind of talk that out with you guys and give you guys a better idea of what the GraceSense system would look like for you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of interest in the machine building side too, because you can provide, and we can host this up in a litany of different ways. But if you want to be able to provide a machine that you can monitor the life of and perform maintenance on, especially if it's a specialized machine where your end user isn't going to be able to maintain that themselves, to be able to monitor the status of that equipment and know that there's any potential issues showing up without having to be on site is so valuable to those equipment providers, because not only does it provide better service to their customer and it gives them a lot higher reputation for maintaining that equipment, but again, it's that ease of mind. It's just that comfort of knowing, hey, this customer is happy. We're getting usable data here and it's going very well, you know? So those kind of setups we're also having a lot of fun conversations about. So if you're interested in what the capabilities are and what our reach is there, we can reach out and discuss that too. But do we have any questions that are coming up right now? Oh, are we that good, Ben, that nobody has a question about anything we talked about?
Dude, we're always that good. Just kidding. Yeah, I think something that Nick just recently brought up too is, and we've talked a little bit about it throughout this webinar, in the fact of pushing things back into from the front of the mind to the back of the mind, and relying more on predictive maintenance versus reactive maintenance. So obviously the big benefit is keeping production high, but a side benefit of this, and it's obviously super important, is the fact that your staff isn't going to be focused on reactive maintenance. And typically you do see more injuries and high pressure situations during reactive maintenance. And when situations do happen, people can be typical or more likely to try to shortcut things to fix the problem and try to make it faster, just so whatever's happening stops happening to get production back up in time.
Yeah. What kind of equipment are we putting these sensors on, or what have you seen? I know pumps, motors are always a big one.
So, yep, like Nick's saying, pumps, motors, stamping machines. We've seen cranes from this example. Let's see.
So things like the stamping machines too. The nice thing about the information that you receive out of the vibration system in the maintenance hub is that we do give recommended thresholds. Like If it goes outside of this area, we're going to recommend that you look into it because you're probably seeing wear and tear in something or misalignment or a loose footing. But, oh, well, I lost again. I completely forgot where I was going with that.
But yeah, I mean, so like Nick was saying, just kind of a lot of the applications we're seeing is motors, pumps, conveyors, cranes, hoist systems, anything that's, frequently moving and is going to be giving off a decent amount of vibration or.
Oh, yeah. That's what it was. And but you can adjust those levels. So if you have like subsynchronous noise and something that's going to trigger and you know that it's not valuable to gather that data, you can adjust that and remove the priority and remove the alarms. So none of that's set in stone, and these are all adjustable to best fit your application. So if you do have something like that, like big machinery going by or something that's going to cause noise vibration that's not part of that machine, you can kind of lessen the priority on that specific data. You can gather these assets. You can connect nodes because these are wireless, and that's one of the better parts. There's parts of people's facilities that don't have Ethernet or don't have data going back to them, and you can add these sensors on there, connect it, and essentially make it a smart machine that's providing data back into your facility, back into your, whether it's a distributed control system or SCADA, or you're using our maintenance hub.
So one question we have in the chat is, guys, how does vibration compare to thermal imaging predictive maintenance? So I believe you're kind of talking about IR imaging and things like
the thermal you're going to see, because equipment as it vibrates, it's going to heat up. So that's usually how people will tell when they're walking by, is that something's running warmer, something's, but I personally don't have a lot of background with thermal imaging in the predictive maintenance, but what we're going to do, vibration causes that heat. So usually what you're going to see is the vibration a little bit earlier in that PF scale. And then even before that is what someone was looking at, that ultrasonic sensor, because in certain applications you can hear it degrading before you can notice the vibrations. But then that vibrations, that movement is going to cause that heat, and that's going to cook. But the same thing with that a non-woven, it was literally all thermal events that they were trying to gather data on, and it was our sensors are just surface mount sensors, and then you can expand in, you can put thermistors or RTDs in to extrapolate more data if needed, and which that might be a very good way to gather more data, but specifically using only that, I don't have enough experience to say where that would lie on, like, say, a pump.
So I think it just depends on the application. So kind of for the non-woven, it was important for temperature because of the fiber was, rubbing, creating friction and heating up, and there wasn't really an opportunity to measure vibration in that sense. But for other applications, like Nick was saying, vibration does, cause more heat to build up, et cetera. So vibration can be seen sometimes before temperature is increasing.
Yeah, I hope that answers your question. If not, I'll readdress that with some of our engineers that will be more familiar with that end of things and reach back out. All right. Is there anything else? Do you want to go over just a couple other, I guess, scenarios that what we've seen? But the more recent GraceSense. So it's, if there's something, a pinch point. So like, let's say sorters in a distribution center are often a bottleneck, and something that it's critical, you don't want it to go down. Those are areas where we've seen people really focus this. A lot of distribution center applications, because we get garage doors too, and monitoring that to make sure that nothing goes down, nothing becomes permanently closed, because that creates a backlog, and that's hard to overcome, especially when you're scheduled out and everything's moving constantly. Those unplanned events are really what you're trying to avoid. So you really just need to focus on what one thing can you fix, that if we monitor it, how can we monitor it? What can we see? And that's the conversation we have. So if you're trying to fix a garage door, at the beginning of that, I don't think anyone had an idea what exactly we were going to do, but working through, there is data you can find. There's information you can gather that'll prevent that, that'll allow you enough time And usually you guys know what that is. Usually you guys know if you're standing there, what you're going to be able to tell to know that something's a problem. And all we need to do is translate that into data that you don't have to stand there to get. So open it up for some conversations. Thank you. I'm glad that did answer your question. That's fantastic. What else? The current sensors are one of the biggest ones. That's all. I just bring it up now instead of waiting for people to say it. But those VFDs, if you have a bank of them, and especially if they all change and they're all a little bit different because supply chain, and you don't want to wait 6 months to get the one that matches the other ones. But it doesn't matter what equipment you're using. We can sense it. We can make it alarm for you, and we can make it smart. Because if you have 3 people, and that's oddly enough, a lot of the experiences I have, it's 3 maintenance staff, even at the steel mill. But when events come up, you get busy, and that's all it is. It's not that you can't do it, not that you're incapable of doing it, or that you need a better tool to do it. It's just that you need it to be able to be done when you're not there doing it. And we've automated stuff in our own lives. We've seen it work out great, and this is all we're doing. So
So I would ask, is there any kind of final questions that you guys might have at the moment? Otherwise, we're more than happy to, again, shoot you guys a call and talk over the system and how this could implement into your facility.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you guys still want check bolts, we're still getting overwhelming requests for those too. So if you're not aware what that is, so anyone that's still hanging around doesn't really know the whole history of Grace. We started out with the through panel interface connectors, the Grace ports, 90, 91. We expanded upon that and went to the electrical safety. Same idea is to keep those cabinets closed, keep your maintenance team safe, allow quick connections to your equipment, and quick visualization. So the voltage indicator was the first step in that. So it was a quick reference of, hey, there's power in that. Hey, we lost a phase. Hey, something leaked the ground. Or, hey, there's apparently a brownout situation going on. So a lot of people started out with those voltage indicators. We've expanded to the safe test point, so you could use your voltmeter from outside to test inside, which puts a lot of people in a lot less exposure rate of an area. So it alleviates PPE in some people's facilities that way. The check volt combined both of those into one product. And something that Ben found out having a few conversations is that if you have that voltage indicator on your equipment, we purposely designed these the same exact size. So if you pull out our voltage indicator, you can put in the check volt. And then Ben found, move that to the line side of your equipment, because then it's just extra. You already have the device. You're going to replace it with a new one that allows for a test portal to be built into it. And then you get extra data on the line side. So if there's any incoming power quality issues, it's a quick reference. You walk into your electrical room and you can see right away, hey, we need to call someone. Or, hey, this is what the issue probably is. And to have that data like that is so valuable. So, and the GraceSense is doing the same thing. So if you guys have an application, wherever it is, and you just say, hey, if you can tell me about this a week before I find out about it, that'll make my life a lot better. That's what we're trying to do. So if you think it's a good fit, you think it might be a good fit, you think our team of engineers over here and we can solve a problem that's not just yours, the chance that it's just your problem and not 7,000 other people's problem too is probably rare. So it might be valuable to have that conversation. If nothing else, connect and find out what the best route is, what other customers have done. But we're more than willing to have these conversations. So that's what we spend this time. We try to teach you guys and show you this. And then even these things, like the recommended actions and all that, if you guys want to run through any of that, we're building up a simulator so that you can create events in a simulated version of our maintenance hub and see what would happen. So see the alarm, test it, make sure that it actually goes out, and what you would see, issue out its tickets. So all of that stuff, it's without 7,000 hours of engineering to integrate it into your system can be really useful. Again, we've had customers that within an hour have nodes up and running, and that's insane. If you think IIoT, the headache that it is to integrate that in, I came from a manufacturer that made PLCs that were MQTT capable. We were one of the first ones. The headache of getting all that built in and the massive back end of data that you have to create is unbearable for a lot of people. So that's what the maintenance hub is for. And we give it with the starter kit, you get it for a year for free. So we'll give you that. We'll let you see the data, how it's manipulated, how you can manipulate it further, and really give you a whole year to figure out how useful it can be. And then if you're able to put that in DCS or SCADA system, build it out on your own, you're more than welcome to. We're not forcing that software on anyone, but it is very, very usable for a lot of people, so we provide it. Yep. So don't think that this is some mandatory subscription thing. If there's ways that we can benefit you, that's what we're out to do.
Yep.
But if you don't have the capabilities to build out an entire system to analyze all this and store this data, we do. So yep. we've done that, and we can help provide that for you. And ours is very nice.
Yeah, it's all about ease of use and ease of installation. And I hope that shows that we're willing to, one, bring in third-party sensors to measure other data into one system for you guys. And it's not just obviously the production time that you're saving. If you're looking to create your own software to see all these things in your SCADA system, that takes a lot of time and man hours and kind of frustrations and trial and error. We already have that built for you. So like Nick said, it's whatever is going to be easiest and best for you guys is what we can go with there.
Yeah.
But I think Nick and I just want to say, thank you guys for joining into this webinar today. And if you guys have any last questions, feel free to ask them. Otherwise, we'll shoot you a call and we can kind of go over your specific application and talk about how potentially you could implement GraceSense into your plant.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Thanks for your time. I think next month we're going over some new innovations to GracePorts. So it's about time something new and exciting came out in that product line. So we'll have some fun new things to talk about for that. And then hopefully you can join us at Automation Fair this year as well. So we always have our new innovations out on display at Automation Fair. We're out in Boston this year. So that should be a really good time. Real interesting that we combine those two events, that Rock Live and Automation Fair. So we'll see how that lines up, what kind of crowd we can draw out there. And should be a good time. But feel free to stop by. Always love saying hi to our customers, showing off what's new. Automation Fair is a fun time. I'm excited for you to join us.
I'm excited to go. Be a good time, but
all right. I think everyone's good with questions. Yep. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you guys.
We'll see you next month.
Thank you.